Scorpio, we are crossing the threshold, and something that might be required of us is repressing some emotions as we get through that. So, a little bit of a complicated stage in the hero's journey for being such a simple one, or seemingly simple at least. But we've got the Five of Cups here, and this is the Murder of Crows tarot. And this is an interesting depiction of the Five of Cups because in the Rider Waite, typically it's someone looking very downcast, they're wearing a cloak, but this is more along the lines of keening. If you're familiar with that, that's an Irish practice, a funerary practice where women would, wail and scream and cry and do that as a representation of everyone's emotions because everybody reacts to grief differently. They might not be able to express them in that moment. So let's start getting some cards out and we'll get into this complicated complex of repressing emotions. And, crossing the threshold, you've probably seen that in various examples in media, in books, and so forth. Like an example that's just coming to mind is the platform 9 3/4 when Harry Potter runs into the what's it to get to the train. And I mean, that's it. That's crossing the threshold after refusing the call to adventure and trying to move forth out of the ordinary world. But the internal struggle, that could be quite a bit. Think back to any time that you've gone through a major transition in your life where you needed to do something difficult. Another example, my favorite movie is Princess Mononoke. And at the beginning, Ashitaka, he says something along the lines of, I accepted my fate the moment I let my arrow fly. So him releasing that arrow, that was him crossing the threshold, even though he wasn't actually at it right then. He was taking the action that would put him on the path that would inevitably lead him to crossing the threshold. So let's get the first card out here. Let's see. Oh, and Five of Cups is Mars in Scorpio, which is the first decan, and that starts tomorrow, or today, as of when I'm publishing this reading. Knight of Cups. Kind of the opposite of emotional repression. And that is really making me think of that Princess Mononoke example because it was very emotional, but very stoic at the same time, or at least Ashitaka was stoic. So let's get more. High Priestess, ooh. Yeah, seeing past the repression, seeing the truth of the matter. I'm feeling some deception, though. Don't know why. I mean, these are kind of shadowy cards, but... I don't quite know yet where that deception vibe is coming from. Maybe we'll see the Seven of Swords at some point. So High Priestess and the Knight of Cups. This might be asking you to look through someone's mask that might be coming towards you. Or you don't want to be seen for a reason. Because, I mean, this is the context of the hero's journey. So maybe in order to cross that threshold to leave the ordinary world, there has to be an element of deception so you can get out. And that kind of builds on that last reading, the Sagittarius one, talking about getting out of situations silently. So maybe you're the one that's having to engage in deception. And we treat that as such a, ma'am, I can hear you, and you had chicken already. What we treat deception as such a dirty word when we get put in positions that require it, not necessarily of our own doing, but because of maybe someone who has power and authority over us, someone who bears us ill will for whatever reason. And I mean, there's so many horror stories all over the Reddit sphere about like people putting in their 2 weeks or whatever, and then they get canned, you know, so they don't have to pay out their pensions or like whatever the arrangement is for them, some sort of benefit, like to take a final dig at them, which really speaks to, you know, the maturity of those individuals. But limited recourse in those situations, and then the burden of proof gets put on the victim, which I think is just appalling. Let's get another card here. They're being very polite and letting me ramble. There we go. Oh, another knight. Knight of Wands. And it actually looks like knight in that card. Zoom! I don't know if you can hear her, but she's got the zoomies. So Knight of Wands, a very passionate individual. This is like... gonna have to expand on this to really understand what is this deception. Because the Knight of Cups, that's like the love knight. Whereas the Knight of Wands is like the lust knight. So, something about differentiating between these two? What's that got to do with crossing the threshold? Maybe that determines the path? Like the threshold is the same, but there's a fork in the road you're going down. And, I mean, I guess it depends on what you're looking for. Love or lust? Both? Let's get some more detail with the Oracle of the Radiant Sun. Just wonder why such big energy for two people. Discernment is always a good practice. Here we go. Escape. Yeah, trying to escape the ordinary world. Mars in Pisces. Warring energy. And it's bringing to mind the Aphrodite and Ares myth. When they're caught in her wedding bed, and it's by the golden net of Hephaestus. But then when they're caught, Aphrodite is basically like, go ahead and watch. Like, she was married against her will, and was pursuing someone she's actually interested in. And so you could be dealing with some sort of arranged situation. And even if it's not like an actual arranged marriage, maybe you're competing with perceptions. Like, you have one person who you know would make you happy, but your family doesn't approve of them and they want you to go with this other person, or some sort of meddling business like that. And you're having to repress your emotions through this, maybe because you want to follow heart's desire, which, being the hopeless romantic that I am, of course I would go with that, but you know your situation better than me. Innovation. Jupiter in Aquarius. Huh. Getting crafty with your escape. I mean, she's got her chariot here. And patient. That looks like someone who might be getting ready to meditate. Oh, and she's got a whip too. Interesting. Get one more. Just kind of set the stage, you know? I guess two more. Protection. Moon in Aries. Okay. And generosity. Saturn in Leo. And that one's in reverse. So trying to protect your path forward on the hero's journey. And that is a grouchy looking tiger, for sure. And this is catching my attention. I don't quite know what this is, this symbol. It kind of looks like a blank scroll or like a blank picture frame. It's like not being given information for your protection, but like someone else is doing that. And it's really derogatory. It's really like infantilizing when people do stuff like that. Like, oh, I know better than you. You've expressed what your desires are, and I'm going to take it upon myself to protect you. Tool. We've got generosity here, and this has always given me Hierophant vibes, because the hand signal, the 2 fingers to heaven, 2 fingers to hell, and it's in reverse. So that could build on that, the withholding of information to, like, quote unquote protect you. So this seems like there's some micro macro level involvement in this. Like, maybe not necessarily macro, like the whole big broad world, but like there's more layers, which, I mean, if you're leaving the ordinary world, like there could very well be resistance to that. I'm going back to the Harry Potter example where they were trying to take all of his letters and stuff. But eventually, like, that message had to get through. And so it was just bombarded with letters. But let's see, over on the left, what's the background behind this? Like these 2 knights. What's this about? have here? There's the Seven of Swords. Okay. I was talking about that. But it's in reverse, so deception revealed. Oh, and another 7. 7, 7. 7 of Pentacles in reverse. Impatience. And it looks like he's stealing a mouse. This crow. And then this shadowy figure is just kind of looking out over the lake. But impatience. For truth to be revealed? Nope, that doesn't feel right. So this is like angsty, not angsty, anxious energy about truth being revealed. Like, it's kind of like when you know something bad is going to happen, and it's just like, oh, get it over with already. Like, just happen. I know this is inevitable. Now, what's that have to do with these knights? Let the truth be known. Because there feels like that anxious energy. I can't tell if there's an actual real timing element to it, though. Or if it's just anxiety. King of Cups. And the King of Cups is someone who has mastery over their emotions. But this expression on this guy's face has always given me just this kind of gruff vibe, like he has seen some ish. And that's an awfully big chalice. Like, it does give Emperor vibes, but not in a positive way, necessarily. This is like someone is waiting for this decision to be made. Like, which path is going to be followed. But it feels like someone external. Because, of course, like, you making a choice, you might be anxious about that. But there's something extra here. Or someone extra, maybe. And this could be building on what we talked about, you know, getting out of a situation quietly. Three of Cups, yeah, reverse. And this looks like, is this the Page? Yeah, Page of Wands. I was looking at the little icon there at the bottom. And both in reverse. So, I mean, the Three of Cups in reverse, this is like, keep it to yourself is what I'm getting from that. Like, Mean Girls vibes. And the Page is a young energy. Someone who's still learning. Someone who's impulsive. The King of Cups is not impulsive, but this Page, I'm feeling impulsivity. Is this Page who messed something up? I don't know what. But they messed something up for a King of Cups? It's like when you're new at a job or something, and you make a blunder and you have to go cop to it. That, like, walk to the manager's office can be very anxiety inducing. But this, I don't know if they've copped to it. This kind of feels like like they know they're gonna be found out, their mistake or whatever, which I still don't understand. Why a mistake? But a mistake was made and they know they're gonna be found out, potentially by the King of Cups. So why bother? Like, why bother coming clean? Because they're gonna be found out. Cowardly, but let's see, what is this mistake? There we go. Come back. Rebellion. Another Mars card. A lot of Mars energy. What's Mars doing right now? I gotta see. This feels important. But rebellion, that looks like an about to be battlefield, you know, or compound, rather. Mars and Aquarius. That's very Aquarian. But this swordsman, they're crossing the border of the picture and looks like stabbing, I mean, into the hat, but you can interpret that as like into the third eye. What did I want? I want this. Planets. Let's see. Mars. Planet. Let's see. Leo. Mars is in Leo. 2 degrees. So maybe check out your Mars placements or your Leo placements. And Leo, that's the opposite sign to Aquarius. But that's the mistake. What? I mean, if we really want to take this literally, you know, as court cards and rebellion and a compound and all that, is there like a rebellion being led against the king? Is the king going to find out this person was supposed to stop it? Was supposed to drive something down a different path, and now that's not happening? It's like the Raven Keeper who gets the terrible news by way of scroll and then like doesn't tell anybody about it. I mean, I guess that wouldn't be, or that would be inevitable, you know, if troops or whatever are on the way. Risk, yeah. Maybe you want to play some Risk. Saturn in Aries. Oof. Heavy. Heavy. This looks like the 3 of Pentacles. It's always given me that. And that's building. Conquer. It's getting like heavy. But it's playing out like a medieval scene in my mind, in my mind's eye. You know, maybe a little like Assassin's Creed, you know? That looks like one of those compounds you'd have to like stealth through. And that looks like an arrowhead. So the page, the Raven Keeper, knows there's a rebellion underway. They were supposed to stop it, and they didn't. And now there's high risk. Maybe to the King of Cups. Why? That's what I'm not getting. Like, what is the why behind all this? Companionship? Well, a tale as old as time. People acting crazy about partners. Or potential partners, like Helen of Troy. Because that was started... Oh gosh, it's been a while since I've read the Iliad. Was it the Trials of Paris? I don't know if it was like a trial, but it was something like that. And was it Aphrodite? Aphrodite or Athena? Did they pay off? I need to look this up. This feels important too. But I feel like there was some deception involved to try and influence Paris's decision. Paris's, that sounds weird. Paris and Helen. So Paris, a Trojan prince, abducts Helen, the wife of Menelaus, after being promised the most beautiful woman on earth by the goddess Aphrodite. But she doesn't want him. So maybe there's something in that story, that epic, rather. So she was an unwilling companion. And then there was some influence, I think, from Aphrodite. Because there was like a contest as to figure out like who is the most beautiful, and it might have just been like Paris's opinion, the opinion of Paris. Yeah, because Helen won over Aphrodite. Interesting. So let's elaborate on this on the right. So we've got the Raven Keepers failed. There's two paths. I'm trying to ground this back down. Like, what the heck is this about? What? Why are we trying to influence the High Priestess and which path she's gonna take? Because that's what it feels like. As we go back to the like arranged relationship example It could just be tradition. But this feels like more drama than that. Why is this happening? What is the fascination with the High Priestess? Is a High Priestess like the equivalent of Helen of Troy? Another king. King of Swords in reverse. That is my malignant narcissist card. Like in that position. Because the King of Swords in the upright would be like a lawyer. A judge. Something like that. Some sort of like official that is like rules, regulations, law, and order. You know, see to it that things run the way they're supposed to. But in reverse, that's somebody who's manipulating the rules, like, to their own benefit. Think like feudalism, you know, serf and a landlord sort of deal. I don't know if it's just like the art on the card, but why, like, this is coming out really medieval, which has not happened in a reading before, you know, like what I see in my mind's eye. So what's the deal with the King of Swords? There's the Three of Pentacles. We were just talking about that. Judgment. Huh. But it's Three of Pentacles in reverse. And normally, that is a group of three working on one project, but it looks like one individual working on a complicated project. Maybe at the behest of the King of Swords? But there will be judgment for this. And I don't know why. And judgment, like, this would be Archangel Gabriel. You know, be not afraid, for you have found the favor of God. When he came to Mary in a dream, told her that she was pregnant with the Messiah. Or would be. I think it was would be. I don't know. But, like, in my opinion, I think Gabriel is, like, the scariest archangel. Because Gabriel is the voice of revelation. Like, no more negotiation, the deal is done, this is an FYI, I'm out of here. You know? It's not a discussion. So a few court cards in here. So it seems like a decent amount of people involved. Invested in which way the High Priestess goes. The Knight of Love or the Knight of Lust. I'm still not clear as to why. And we have the Knight of Swords. Okay, another court card. A lot of people involved. And Five of Wands, conflict. And this is like active conflict. It's not the Five of Swords that the conflict has ended and people are like breaking it up, they're separating from each other. This is like happening now. And the Knight of Swords In the upright would be like the reckless hero, fastest moving knight in the deck. In reverse, a little more sure-footed, you know, making sure they've got solid ground beneath their feet before making a move. Feels like they're trying to navigate through this conflict. This is just muddy energy. Muddy medieval energy. So I want more detail on the why. Like, why is this happening? Why is everybody so invested in what the High Priestess is doing? Oh, it thought about flipping. I'm taking the bottom one. Is that another Mars card? Yes. Mars in Gemini. Decision. In reverse. So, well, indecision is first what came to mind. But it's kind of bringing me back to that angsty energy. I keep saying angsty, I mean anxious. What is angsty about? Who's angsty? Probably the page. The page is the young energy, the immature energy. It doesn't necessarily have to be a young person, but like maybe somebody who's emotionally immature. That inevitability. Maybe. Everybody who's involved knows it's the High Priestess's decision. They might be able to influence her, but they can't make her do anything. So they just got to sit back and watch what she decides. And, I mean, genders aside, like that's just that archetype of the High Priestess, of the moon energy. Whereas like the Hierophant would be more in the sun, more in your face. We've got power and seduction. And power is the moon in Scorpio, and that's reversed. And seduction is Jupiter in Pisces. That's upright. I think the High Priestess is unmoved by power. She can see through it. She can see the person behind the position. She sees the throne back there. Like the throne has been there the whole time, whomever is sitting on it. The person changes, but the throne doesn't. And she can see through the veil. She can see through the hidden energy. And this feels veiled, just the way it's coming through with that medieval. It's like it's not grounding into a today scenario. So contextualize how appropriate. That's interesting too, though, that it's coming through veiled. And it's a crossing of the threshold. And this High Priestess card has always given me Hecate vibes. So if the High Priestess is you, maybe you are making a decision you don't want to be seen. Maybe there are cross watchers, potentially. The veil of like the once removed storyline, you might understand this plot without me contextualizing it in like a real world scenario. And I think this is a good opportunity to talk about, like, what's it called? The Barnum effect. So you definitely want to be cautious about that. You know, just stay grounded as you engage with these things. Like when I say things, you know, like contextualize how appropriate, I feel like the phrase, like, take it how it resonates is a little overused, but I get it. It's hard when you're having a one-sided conversation with a camera and I can't interact with people in real time to, like, you know, fine-tune things a little bit more. Don't make it fit if it doesn't. If it naturally flows into something you're already experiencing, yeah, then it might fit what's going on with you. But don't, like, square peg round hole yourself, you know? So let's get some advice. What's the advice for Scorpio? Oh, that did a topsy-turvy. So that was going to come out reversed, but now it's sideways, and it's justice. So this is in motion energy. Something's being made right that was wrong. I'm getting the vibe from the something that the King of Swords did. Because this, I mean, this feels like a really impactful blunder. The King of Swords in reverse knows what they're doing. The page could have been, you know, like, tossed to the wolves by King of Swords, maybe even by the King of Cups. But that feels less deliberate than King of Swords. So justice as the advice. Let's get another one. And that the candles seem to confirm that. Yes, justice as advice. Okay. Anything else? What else? Ooh. Two of Pentacles. And this also gives me Hecate vibes. It's that triplicity quality of it. But balance, disruption. That's the advice. To make things go right. And leaving the ordinary world and crossing the threshold, that might be a major disruption. That could take a multitude of forms. If we're sticking with the... Oh, there's a tower in reverse. It really caught my attention. But if we're going with the relationship analogy, breaking free from familial traditions, opinions, so on and so forth, that's a lot. That is one of those big decisions, like, you know it's right for you because you want to live your life for yourself, not for your family, like, not for other people. You want to take care of the people in your life, but your life needs to be lived for you. Not everybody's going to see it that way. Like, all of the women who don't want to have kids, and it's treated like the end of the world that they won't be providing a grandkid. And really, in those situations, like, the part of having a grandkid that they're looking forward to is the fun stuff, the nice stuff, the picture worthy stuff, not the hard stuff that they get to give the kid back for. You know, like, the parent is still the one taking on all that responsibility for their parents' enjoyment. That poor kid, too. But disruption is the advice. Maybe that's how to get justice for yourself, which, regardless of context, if something is keeping you from living the life that you want to live, and you have the ability, capacity, whatever, to live that life, and there's something obstructing it simply because they don't want that for you, or they want you to do something different for them, yeah, a disruption would be justice, because then you can go your own way, live your own life. Nine of Wands in reverse. So in reverse, that is like getting past boundaries. I'm going to need one more. That might be what someone's trying to do. Or this disruption is a result of someone trying to get past your boundaries. Five of Pentacles in reverse. And in reverse, that's read much more positively than the upright, like, destitute, dreary. And I mean, this is someone that's being burnt at the stake. That is, like, the most grim depiction you can have, because this is typically depicted with a church, you know, people being left out in the cold, whatnot. But it's like this disruption frees you. And it could be freeing you from the ordinary world. So you're crossing the threshold into those next stages. I think, what is it? Tests and allies is the next stage of the hero's journey. So breaking free of a difficult situation, you get out of the ordinary world and, like, get dropped straight into a test. Hero's journey's hard. No easy task. And I feel like we go through multiple cycles of this in our life, and some are more difficult than others. Let's see. Whoa. I think that's 3. Oh, we might be getting 4. Submission. Venus in Pisces, and it's in reverse. So that's you, the High Priestess, saying, absolutely not. I think that's too many. And they're face down, so I keep shuffling. But submission, so just taking that as a direct opposite of no, absolutely not. Because Venus in Pisces is exalted. That's where it likes to be. In reverse, that's like resisting what it wants. And it's bringing me right back to the Aphrodite myth with Ares, that she would not submit. Like, sure, Zeus married her off, but she was still going to do what she wanted to do regardless. Reputation be darned. Anything else? I mean, I think that's a solid message of, like, stick with it. Yeah, assertion. Sun and Aries. Okay, yeah. Interesting. So it is really giving that, like, I choose who I choose. And this could very well be, maybe you've got some people in your family, social circle, whatnot, who unfortunately might not be accepting of your sexual orientation. You know, that happens to so many of us. And if they're not celebrating who you are, if you don't have to spend time with that person, I would highly advise considering not. Because that will just endlessly chip away at your mental health. And if you have to convince someone to love you, like, in that weird phrasing that people use, like, oh, love the sinner, not the sin, or something, like, you're still not actually accepting me, you're tolerating me. And there's a massive difference between the two. You know, just my 2 cents. But when you try to cross the threshold, that successfully getting over that might require assertion of, no, this ordinary world that I'm leaving it for a reason. I'm making this decision for a reason. Yeah, defense. Another Mars card. Dang. So a lot of conflict. Mars in Taurus, defense. And Sun in Aquarius, idealism. And that's in reverse. So defending your position. People might call you, you know, like an idealistic fool, something of that nature. Or it's unrealistic ideals that you are trying to achieve. And I've always been of the mindset of, like, if you don't try, how do you know? I've got this iteration, you know, one chance at this iteration of me to live the life I want, to be happy. I've got responsibilities and logistics and finances and all those things and stuff, you know. But I guess you hit a point in your life eventually that if I'm not able to live the life I want, what am I doing? What decisions am I making to contribute to that? Is it being around a hostile social environment? Whatever context that takes on. Medieval time traveler? I don't know. But, like, are the people, places, and things you're hanging around actually preventative to what you want to experience? You know, if you want to experience where'd my knights go? So many cards. But if you want to experience the night of love, and yet you're going out on the town every other night, whatever, on the prowl, partying it up, is that what you're going to achieve? Are you putting yourself in situations that could yield, like bear the fruit that you actually want? And if you are just looking to like churn and burn them, but you're going on dates and like misleading people and whatnot, but really what you want is like the complete freedom to have a new partner every single night, like to each their own, why would you manipulate people into that? Like, stay in your lane, you know? What lane do you want to be in? Figure that out, and then stay there. As long as it takes you to get to your destination. Or until you need to, like, hit a rest stop or something. You know, take a break. Got to let your foot off the gas a little bit. I feel like that's a healthy way to meet your goals. Because, I mean, your car would burn out if you just floored it constantly. Let's get one of these here. This is the Witching Hour Oracle. Wrap this up. Interesting metaphors for crossing the threshold. But so a lot to think about. Sounds like a complicated situation with a lot of people involved. But at the end of the day, you're crossing the threshold for you. Because you have made this decision to answer the call to cross the threshold. And that's for you. We've got the Witch Hunter, Danger, 34. Oh, another 7. Beware the Witch Hunter. Let me get the book. This is a dreary scene. Keywords: betrayal, danger, jealousy, need for protection. And the tarot correspondence is 5 of Wands. This card is ominous as it seems, is as ominous as it seems. Receiving it means there is someone in your personal orbit who wishes you harm. A coworker might be attempting to sabotage your work, or a friend might be spreading vicious gossip. In some rare cases, receiving this card may also be a sign that a curse or hex has been placed upon you, and you should take steps to protect yourself. If you already suspect someone, this card is confirmation that you are right to be cautious. Be mindful of what you do and say around this person, and take extra care to validate paperwork, or do more research before making any commitments, or potentially conclusions to, you know. If your reading is about money or career, pulling this card is a sign of potential financial trouble. Consider passing on this opportunity as it could lead to a loss in abundance or reputation. Interesting. And it does have the disclaimer, which I will back the sentiment. It says, please reach out to someone if you or someone you know appear to be in immediate physical danger. You know, and with the witching card and whatnot, people can be really judgy. And they can kind of lose their heads when they're judging you, especially if it's on like a religious basis or something. They really lose their reason in that. But if someone didn't jump out to you immediately, don't go looking for someone. You know, like if you go looking for snakes in the grass, you'll find them. But if this reminded you of a gut feeling that you had about someone and you dismissed, maybe that is worth some additional exploration, consulting with an objective party, like a therapist or something. Just like, this behavior is really bothering me. Like, I can't figure this out, someone to bounce some things off of. So, a lot to think about. For such a simple stage, simple, quote unquote, in the hero's journey. And if you know anything about the witch trials and whatnot, they were just accused and they lost their life on really baseless claims. One of the rumors in my family is that we're related to one of the Salem witch sisters that was hung in those trials. When I visited Salem, that was a very harrowing trip. Like, man, if things had played out a little bit differently, I don't know if I'd be here. And we've got Amen by Hailstorm. Very good song. Came out recently in another reading. I think it was another Hero's Journey reading. So a lot of religious themes here, kind of at the end. But maybe there's something in the lyrics. I mentioned a few different tales. The Salem witch trials, the Iliad, a few other things. So a lot to refer to that you might be able to apply to your individual story. And we'll see you for the next stage for the tests and allies. So overall, I hope this helps. I hope this resonates. And if it doesn't, I hope the next one does. Thank you so much.